Intern and Jay Stevens, watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
All right, you guys ready? 36. What's going on? Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 236 this week.
We watched documentaries. So
we watched, yeah, that's at the end. But this week was Jay's pick. I want to get that out first, and I want to just again reiterate that up until this point, I thought we had a rule.
No more stuff with kids
in the Dark Side of the Stream, that we had been very clear with each other that, hey, we are both proud parents of some wonderful children. It's insanely difficult to watch some of these. It's one thing, like, my wife, for example, loves Law and Order SVU, and sometimes like
most women do love.
And I sometimes like I'll come in the room and she's watching it, or she'll watch it on her stuff. Like she's doing something, and I'll like catch a part of a story, and I'm like, oh my god! But it's fiction, right? It's not real. This is like the most unbelievably deplorable episode of Law and Order SVU that you can think of, times a billion. So I hate you.
Thank you
for picking this. I want to know, did I do something wrong? Did I make you mad?
No.
Is this a passive aggressive way for you to get back at me for something?
It's a crazy documentary.
I get that, but I already knew about Fred and Rose West.
I did not at all. I did not at all.
Oh, 1,000%.
Now I know.
Man.
What's the name of the documentary you watched?
Fred and Rose West, Horrors in the UK or something.
On Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. Do you even remember the name of it?
I'm just trying for the listener at home to know where we're at.
Do you remember the name of it?
No. and for the listener at home.
So, again, did I make you mad?
They might want to watch this documentary.
Why are you talking like Michael Jackson over
my
there?
My voice is beat up right now.
Oh, are we going to move to this? I got to stop being so loud.
Hey, guys. Okay. Thanks for tuning in.
We're really going to mess with Tyler now. Like, he needed more work to do. Now he's going to have to mess with it.
Tyler.
He's going to have to.
This is our podcast and our radio show.
We're whispering today. It's Dark Side of the Stream. Jay's talking real soft, so this is how we're going to do it. Since there's no more funding for public broadcast, I guess we're going to start presenting our stuff on the
It was
Cave,
a couple in the UK, and they're an odd couple, wouldn't you say, to start with?
Before we get into just the couple, you got to start with Fred. And I have a theory about him after I knew about this stuff.
I like this.
But once I kind of dove into him personally, there is a theory that I have, and I don't know the answer to it, but I don't want to give it up just yet.
You went on a deep dive.
Well, I think you know me personally, and how even when I don't agree with you, I beg you to give me perspective. Even whenever you're like, hey, some crazy thing that you say, even if you know that I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I also have to be able to I don't need to understand it, I just need to gain the perspective. Yeah, does that make sense?
Fair enough.
Because it's so hard for me to believe as an optimist, that there are people that exist that can literally do things that these two people did to not only other human beings, but their own blood.
Yeah.
So with that being said, welcome to Dark Side of the Stream, probably one of the most horrific episodes or conversations we're going to have.
Intros.
But we'll be back because that was long enough the segment. And I'll give you because my theory has to do with the beginning of the story.
This is good.
And we'll be back next, Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. It's Dark Side of the It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 236. Jay recently partied really hard. He went on a cruise and he hung out with a bunch of smokers, and he doesn't smoke. This is actually a really good, non-smoking
I didn't even know that's what it was from until you pointed that out.
Oh, yes, it is. As a former smoker of a long time, and I still use the vape, it's one of the only thing I can't kick, and I don't want to get into that. But as a longtime smoker, you cannot do anything worse to your voice than smoking. If you are a singer, if you
That's
speak
why I never
for a living,
smoked,
it completely destroys your voice. Even he didn't perform at all. He goes and performs at lake places all weekend long.
5-hour shows, back to back. Yeah, no
6
problem.
to 8 hours over a weekend at his age,
Gambling
and comes
in
back
a casino. Look
and,
what happened.
talks like nothing happened on Monday. Comes back from being in a room with a bunch of smokers for 2 days,
Wow.
and listen to him.
Beat up.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, we're talking about the Fred and Rose West documentary on Netflix, and here is my theory. He had 2 very bad blunt force trauma injuries when he was younger. When he was a kid, something happened and he ended up he got his skull cracked. Something happened to him. And then later on, when he was in his teens, he groped some girl because this was a pattern. Okay. Right, it wasn't like he just woke up and was like, I'm gonna start killing people.
Okay.
Like he progressed. Because it started with
they do that.
His family members are saying that he did, and then it just progressed until he starts killing people. So, but whenever he was in his teens, he groped some girl and she thank God, knocked him off a 2-story building and he hit his head again. So it's kind of like the Texas shooter that went to the school in the 50s or 60s and stood up in the tower and just started picking people off, and then left a note saying, "Study my brain because there's something wrong with me."
Whoa.
And they basically found that he had a tumor on his brain that completely messed up his decision-making process and all the things that he was going through. He thought it was just, it was God talking to him or whatever, but it was a legit tumor on his brain. So the same idea would apply to Fred Rose in the sense that there were traumatic things that happened, like CTE with football
CTE,
players and
like
wrestlers.
CTE. Okay, gotcha.
The same kind of thing.
Gotcha.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm not excusing the behavior whatsoever. I'm just, like I said, trying to gain perspective as to why a human being would be willing to do this to another human being. It's just because that's the whole. You're sitting there watching this thing and you're just like, how does this exist?
Burying people in the backyard and burying them in the basement of the house and stuff. It's crazy.
Multiple murders. But the crazy thing about it is, when he first asked Rose out, you know what she said? No. He asked her out again. She said no. And then he had some sort of I can't remember what he did. It was just the smoothest, you could tell this guy was a smooth talker for sure.
Yeah, you could tell.
He was a charmer, I guess.
Yes,
and eventually was able to charm her. But before we come back from the break, I guess we'll talk about it when we come back. If you think she was a part of it, or do you think he brought her along with it? Because that's a big part of this whole story too.
Okay.
Without getting into the details.
Cool.
This is Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio, Dark Side of the Stream, episode 236. I keep forgetting. Sorry, I keep blowing it. I'm so used to. I got to match your energy.
You're matching.
I'm trying to match your energy.
Michael Jackson energy.
Match your energy. We're doing Fred and Rose West. I think this is a documentary on Netflix, and if you're into this sort of thing, and
it's a wacky story
you
for
really
sure,
want to hear about the lengths that people will go and do. To other people, be my guest. But we can't really talk about a lot of the details on the air anyway, because it's extremely graphic. I mean,
turns out this dude was killing people and burying them in his house and in the backyard, and then and he always said she had nothing to do with it. He in jail, he's like, she had nothing to do with it. I'll show you where the bodies are at. Leave her out of it. But then it started to go well, wait a minute, maybe she did have something to do with it. So
I think. I don't know how. I really don't know. I don't know how she couldn't have been either complacent in it, or
had to be helping him pick up girls. I feel like on the side of the road, right?
In that sense,
yeah.
I feel like that would have, because he's not. It's not like he's a really good looking dude. You know what I mean?
No, he had some charm.
He was a charming guy, but the way it seemed like it was almost like a tag team situation. If maybe she didn't know what happened to them, possibly. Yeah. But I just, it's hard for me to believe after watching all that stuff. I'm not going to believe anything he says. Right?
Definitely not.
You just can't.
Definitely not.
So unless you have proof otherwise, it's hard not to believe that she was either complacent in it or had knowledge at some point. There's no way to make me believe otherwise.
I feel like she was definitely involved.
And I don't know at what point, man, that's a crazy thing because when I was doing, like you said, when I went down my rabbit hole with him, I like wanted to gain perspective too for her, and the way they described the meeting was so eye opening to me because she was 15 and he was older and she pushed him off multiple times, but then just kind of he charmed her. I guess that's what it is.
And then kind of tricked her into this lifestyle, this twisted lifestyle. You think? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
And maybe
that's what I'm thinking, dude. Yeah,
maybe gaslit her into it. Maybe makes her. Feel like she can't leave him. I don't know what it is, but one of those things had to be. But ultimately, Fred would take the easy way out and hang himself in jail before he would go to trial and leave her on alone to serve the rest of her life in prison.
Yeah.
And that's
terrible story.
Horrible.
Terrible story. If you want to watch it, though, watch it.
And we're going to come back next and give you our reviews of it. I'll try to be as
Mike's
objective
review.
as
I'm curious what Mike's review is going to be. I'm curious what Mike's review will be.
Yeah, listening or watching Dark Side of the Stream.
Or listening.
4.7 The Cave. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 236. Fred and Rose West on Netflix. Again, I knew about this. I believe it was last podcast.
I didn't know about it. Yeah.
Did an episode about them. Or it was probably a multi. That's how I found out about him. And so when you brought it up, I was like, man, why are we doing this?
Yeah, I did not know this.
I still think I did something to make him mad. I think I may have removed.
No, you're good.
I cut him. He thought there was supposed to be a Motley Crue song in the 3 o'clock hour one day, and I went in there and deleted it.
Where's my shot at the devil?
And that was like the 5th time I'd done it, and he was like, "That's it. I'm done. I'm going to bring him down with me."
I'm taking out all the Pink Floyd at 5 o'clock.
I just had an epiphany. Live on camera. Here is the thing. It also could be the whole thing about like my mom is really bad about when things like gross things happen or really bad things happen that she experiences, and she's like, I got to tell you about it, and just because she wants you to live and suffer in that with you. So was that it too?
No, that's why we have the O behind us.
Oh,
it's still here.
It's not an O. It's not even connected. It's a question mark.
What is it?
It's
now
a question
it's
mark.
A question mark.
Oh, that's great. Either way, the documentary, while horrific, is a very informative documentary.
Yeah, I give it a 3.
The story, I was actually going to say like 3.5. I was almost leaning towards.
I thought you were going to go 0.
No, like I said, I wanted to be objective because I don't want to talk about the fact that it was a horrible story, how it made me feel. Because literally, also when I started to watch it. Because Krista, I'm pretty sure that's why it was last podcast. She heard me start it and she goes, I'm not watching that. Because she already knew. And it's like, dude, what are we doing?
Well, what are we watching next?
I wanted to do another one, and at least one that had nothing to do with kids, but it's the Astroworld tragedy. The concert festival that had all the riots and all those people got trampled and stuff.
All right. Travis Scott, was that what it was? Travis Scott? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's on Netflix. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
Cool.
But it's an hour and something change, and it'll be interesting to see how many people failed. And for 2 guys that deal with concerts and promoters and events and venues all the time, there is a lot of levels where at any point any of those things go bad, it can go really bad for everyone.
Always know where your exits are, man, when you're at these kind of things,
Just in life, that's not a bad piece of advice from Mr. Jay Bananas. Either way, that is Jay Bananas. I'm Mike
Even though
the
you may
Intern.
think it's Michael Jackson.
And you've been listening to Dark Side of the Stream. You can stream it online at 1047thecave.com on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Watch it on Facebook or YouTube at 9 a.m. Jay's got it during his show at 6 p.m. And
we watch
documentaries,
movies, so you don't have to.
It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. He does sound like Michael Jackson.
Maybe that was what Michael Jackson tried to save his voice during the day, and then he'd sing at night.
He's got shows this weekend. That's what he's trying.
Yeah, I gotta nurse this back to health.
104.